So taking refuge and cultivating bodhicitta at the beginning of any Dharma activities we do, then that Dharma activities will become real Buddhist practice, which means that action, right? That whatever performance you have done will become cause for our future attainment of Buddhahood.
就是我们做皈依也好，发菩提行也好呢，之所以成为这个一切的佛法的活动的前行的修法，乃是因为如果我们这样修持的话，就是先皈依，然后后发这个菩提心的话呢，才算是累积了这个足够的因，足够了未来得证菩提，也就是成佛的因。所以唯有这样做呢，我们的修持、我们的行持和事业和行动等等呢，才算是一个佛教徒的所作所为。
So taking refuge vow, or and also cultivating bodhicitta has two functionings. So first, taking refuge means then practice will become Buddhist practice, generally speaking. Then, in addition to it, by cultivating bodhicitta means not only your practice will be Buddhist practice, but also a practice of Mahayana. So Mahayana practice, of course, is whatever we do, whatever practice we engage in, we are engaging in such a practice for the purpose of benefiting all sentient beings, not just for yourself. So that is the function of or the purpose of cultivating bodhicitta.
那皈依跟发菩提心呢，在这边呢 ，Khenpo 来跟我们告诉我们有两种作用和功德。那第一个呢，就是我们皈依的时候，就是证明说我们是真实的三宝弟子，也就是我们的所作所为、所修所持呢，也才是算是一个真正的佛教徒的所作所为，和行持。那第二呢，我们发菩提心之后呢，那我们就不只是这个纯正的佛教徒而已了。也就是说，我们的所作所为呢，我们一切的行持、一切的作为呢，都是这个大乘的行者的所作所为跟行持，也就是马哈亚那大乘的这个修法。大乘的精要呢，就是利他为上，就是不所作所为、所修所行的，不是为我们自己的利益而功德而已，而是为了要普及跟利乐一切的如母众生。所以呢，就这样子这个缘故，发菩提心的目的跟功德就在这边。所以这两者的作用，皈依跟菩提心的这个作用跟功德呢，就是以这两种目的跟作用来解释。
So, in other words, taking refuge, vow, and cultivating bodhicitta is the part of practice where, from the very beginning of any practice we do, we are, correcting our motivation, which is very important because whatever we do, if our motivation is not the right one, then you could say that the time that we spend on whatever teachings or practice, meditation we do will not be a proper one. This will not bear fruit of what you are wishing for, right? So for that reason, first we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which means I am taking refuge in Buddha as my teacher, right? This is what you have to think. And then taking refuge in Dharma as my path, and taking refuge in Sangha as my companion on the path, right? Then cultivating bodhicitta means now, after taking refuge in this Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I'm going to engage in a practice, whatever the practice that might be, for the benefit of sentient beings, not for myself, not for just the individual person, not for the purpose of benefiting oneself, one's self-centeredness, but for the purpose of helping sentient beings, all sentient beings. That means now, then from then on, until we finish whatever the Dharma session, the teaching session, you really have to have this, motivation, that intention of I'm receiving this teaching or I'm participating in this teaching for the purpose of benefiting sentient beings. So that's the main reason why we do certain prayers at the beginning.
一开始呢，我们之所以要先做这个前行的修法，也就是之前所说的皈依跟发菩提心文呢，它的目的呢，它之所以成为这个正行前面的那个前行的修法的一部分呢，也就是为了要纠正跟使我们的动机跟发心变得纯正起来。因为这个我们的动机跟发心在这边是非常的重要的。如果我们做一件事情的发心跟动机是不纯正的话呢，那不管是我们投入于这个听闻佛法也好，禅修也好，做功课也好呢，等等的所投入的时间跟精力呢，都变成了浪费。所以为了使我们的佛法的行持变成纯正的三宝弟子的作为，所以我们必须要以这个前行法为开始，来纠正、来净化我们的这个发心或者说是这个动机。所以呢，所以在我们皈依三宝之前，就是皈依三宝之后，我们皈依三宝是皈依佛、皈依法、皈依僧。那皈依佛的话，就把佛当成是我们的老师；皈依法的话呢，就是法就是我们所行持的道，就是所行持的这个佛法。那僧呢是我们的这个法侣或者道友，这是皈依佛法僧。那皈依佛法僧之后呢，我们就要发菩提心。那除了皈依三宝之后呢，我们进入菩萨道的行持，所以我们发菩提心。那菩提心的意思就是不是为了自己，就是我们修法的目的跟动机呢，是为了一切利乐、如母有情的这个缘故。我们不再以这个自我中心、自私自利为修持的功德，修持这个目的，或者说是这个发心。所以从一开始以前行的修法为开始，一直到我们结束我们的功课，不管是禅定听法也好，或者是做功课也好，那我们都要保证这样的纯净的菩提心的动机跟这个发心。也就是说，修法的目的呢，是为了利乐一切众生，而不是以自我为这个中心而自私自利的。所以这个就是皈依跟发菩提心之所以成为一切修法的前行的缘故。
Okay, so now the actual teaching. This is a chapter from the Bodhicharyavatara. It's the 5th chapter. I've chosen this chapter. This is called the chapter of guarding alertness. This is how it is translated, but also some people use introspection. I prefer that, introspection, guarding introspection, right? So basically, in this chapter, what it's talking about is those two important topics, and that is the mindfulness and introspection or alertness. These two are the main subject, but these two are needed because the chapter is actually called guarding your mind, right? Guarding our mind. But how do you guard your mind? In order to guard, in order to protect our mind from wandering to different places to different objects, then you have to guard it, right? So how do you do it? How do you guard it? Usually, in order to guard some property, you have a guard at the door, right? And sometimes you have a dog that guards the other intrusions coming in, so guarding from that. But here we are talking about guarding our mind. So in order to do that, we also need some, what do you call the, something to guard it, some helper. And that helper happens to be mindfulness and introspection.
所以呢，今天呢，我们进入正行的部分呢，讲课的内容主要是我们选择了这个入菩萨行论，吉莲菩萨入菩萨行论的第5品，也就是正知正念品。当我们说到正知这里翻译的，有时候说是怎么样守护自己的心，那其中一个翻译是这样的，另外一种翻译呢，怎么样通过自省而有所警觉。那 Khenpo 个人的意见是，他觉得第2种翻译会比较恰当。那当我们说到这2个主要的主题呢，就是正念跟觉知的时候呢，他教导是我们如何去守护我们的自心相续，我们自己的心。然后如何守护我们自己的这个心呢？我们必须要知道它的方法。正如我们守护我们的财富啊、我们的地位、我们的财物一样的，那我们要如何守护我们自己的心，以便它不会变得狂妄、失念或者散乱呢？也就是说，我们如何投入这种守护自心的这个行持之中呢？这是必须要有方法的，也就是要请一个人、一个他者来帮助我们，守护我们自己的这个心。那在这边呢，这2个主要的，我们也最主要的帮手，这2个主要的帮手就是我们的正念跟觉知。
So here the mindfulness, or it's also called remembrance, right? So that means whatever the commitments we have already made with regard to our Dharma practice, that commitment or the promise that we made, saying that certain things I will do from this time onwards, and there are certain things that I will abstain from doing. That kind of commitment you already made, right? So remembering that promise, recollecting that promise is called mindfulness. And then introspection is those things that you already learned, meaning the practice, that there are practice that to be done, and there are practice that you have to also abstain from. That knowledge, right, that you already mastered of how to do those things, and then now you bringing in those that knowledge back to the current situation of whatever you are doing. So that is called introspection.
然后呢，这个正念呢，正念就是一种记起，一种意念，也就是我们意念起我们在佛法的行持上所做过的一切的承诺。比如说从这个时候，今天开始呢，我应当要怎么做，怎么去修持我这个佛法。有些东西是应该要去做的，我们承诺要去做。然后承诺不去犯的，比如说犯戒等等这个东西呢，就是要一起这些我们的守护我们的誓言，要记得。所以这种记起跟回忆跟记得就是一种正念。那关于这个觉知或者警觉呢，也就是说我们已经学到了方法，如何去做我们应当做的，如何去防止不去做我们不应该做的。那把这个方法知道这个方法，以知以学以修之后呢，把这个方法融入于我们的所修所学当中，这个本身就是一种觉知跟警惕。
So this chapter has 109 verses, and I intend to complete all these 109 verses, in like what we have 8 lessons, right? So this is what I intend to do. So hopefully, yeah, I'm able to do it, yeah.
那我们这一品呢，一共有109个寄送。那 Khenpo 希望能够在前面所有的八堂课当中，都把这所有的109课寄送给讲完。
Now, the actual text, now first verse number 1, I think it will be shown on the screen, right?
那这个我们第一个寄送呢，应该是显示在这个荧幕上，请各位留意一下。
So those who wish to guard their practice should very attentively guard their minds. For those who do not guard their minds will be unable to guard their practice. So that is the root text of Bodhicharyavatara. And so this very first verse is actually a brief introduction of what this guarding alertness or the guarding introspection mean. So it says that the the practice that you have promised to do with your teachers or wherever you have received these teachings, and then from then on, you are promised to carry on that practice. So in order to guard that practice, in order to often just from losing, from forgetting those practice, you have to guard it. So in order to guard that practice, first we have to guard our mind, right? For those who don't really bring everything into your mind and just let your mind wander, then you will not be able to do the practice well. In other words, you cannot guard your practice.
所以这边呢，这个根本颂这是正念品的第一个，就是这样说的。我念中文的，给各位听一听。是亦护学处者，策立当护心，若不护此行，不能护学处。那这是根本颂的第一句。这边所讲的就是之前我们所说的意念起这个佛法上的行持，以及对治加以觉知，然后融入于法的意义当中。这个就是所说的这个正知正念。所以一开始的时候，我们在我们的老师面前所承诺应该要做的所修所学，不管是受教、听法也好，受戒也好呢，都必须要守护起我们所修的、所行的这个法。那以免呢让它不至于退失，或者不至于这个散乱。所以呢，这个我们必须要守护我们自己所修的这个佛法。那但是为了要守护这个所修学的佛法呢，我们先必须要学会怎么样守护我们这个狂乱的这个心，那以便能够把我们的所修所学融入我们自行相续当中。那这样唯有这样呢，才能够通过守护我们自己的心，来守护我们所修学的这个佛法。要不然的话，我们的心不知道如何守护自己的心，不能知道如何升起正知正念的话，那心若是狂妄失念的话呢，那我们所修学的佛法也会跟着去散乱掉，或者退失掉。所以因此呢，守护自心，以正知正念来守护自心是极为重要的一个大前提。
So guarding mind is important because most of the problems that we have, if we think very carefully, in many of the problems, bigger percentage of such a problem is our own making. So I know our own mind, exaggerated it, or so that's why it's so important to guard your mind. Meaning, don't let your mind wander to things that are not relevant, right? We do that. For example, this time, particularly the COVID-19 problem, of course, the actual suffering of such a disease is already a problem that no one can deny. But even those people who do not have that disease yet, but they already are suffering. And not only that, but you see many of them already committed suicide and so forth, because it's our mind making this problem or the suffering, which actually is not real. It's not there. It's just our mind made it. So for these kinds of reasons, it's very, very important first to really think deeply and bring our mind, and we should really know our mind better, right? Our situation of mind, where it is right now, where it is running. and then guard it. Don't let it go to where it shouldn't be gone, right? And you do that with the implementation of mindfulness and introspection.
所以呢，这个守护我们的心之所以为重要呢，因为正是因为我们世界上我们人生中大部分的问题呢，很大的百分比都是我们的自心所造作的，也就是说自作自受的，自己选择的。所以如果我们细细思考的话呢，细细思考的话呢，也就是一大堆数的问题都是我们的自心所造作的。这样的话呢，就是比如说我们现在说我们有这个 COVID-19 这个新冠肺炎的蔓延肆虐嘛，对不对？那很多人当然这个痛苦是非常巨大的，但是即便是没有患上这个疾病的人们呢，他本身也就是有些人选择自杀来结束自己的寿命，自己的性命。所以由此可见呢，很多这个问题都是我们自行去想的。所以为了守护我们的自心相续呢，为了不要让我们的心去胡思乱想，去它不应该去的地方，因此我们必须要知道怎么样守护我们自己的心。那在这边就告诉我们说，如何通过正知正念呢，来守护我们自己的这个心，那以便不会使它狂乱失念等等这些。
Okay, so then verse number 2.
然后第二个根本颂。
In this world, unsubdued and crazed elephants are incapable of causing such harms as the miseries of the deepest hell, which can be caused by the unleashed elephant of my mind.
第二个根本颂是这样念的：若众狂相心，受难无间狱，为寻大狂相，为患不及此。
Okay, so this is actually verse number 2 is telling us the fault, right? If you don't guard your mind, if you let go your mind anywhere it goes, then what are the losses? What are the faults that it will bring? So here, Shantideva kind of makes the example of a crazy elephant, which is like our, unsubdued mind. Our unsubdued mind is like a crazy elephant. And particularly now, I think it corresponds with a ancient story of elephant that in India, they use elephant for war with enemies. When you're waging war, then they use elephant. But then particularly those crazy elements, they intoxicate them. Then, so as you can see, then what can a intoxicated crazy elephant can do if you let it loose to the town of your enemy? It can destroy the whole town, right? But our crazy mind, or intoxicated crazy mind, can destroy even more than that, which means such a intoxicated crazy elephant can only destroy certain cities, right? But they cannot bring the suffering of hell realm to the human realm. But our mind does. So that is the fault of not guarding our mind. So that is the meaning of the second verse.
然后第二个根本颂的意思呢，就是说他要告诉我们的就是这个，如果不守护自心相续的话，所带来的过患到底是什么？也就是说，如果我们让我们的心继续的如此的狂妄试炼下去的话呢，会带来怎么样的祸害？那吉殿菩萨Shantideva就在这边告诉我们说，我们的心呢，就好像是如一头未驯服的大象。那特别是古代呢，以这个醉象来比喻，来作为这个，因为古代的时候，古印度的时候打仗的时候是以这个给这个大象喝醉了，来攻击别人的城池，就是攻击敌人的这个城镇。那因为这个大象喝醉的时候，它就会大肆的破坏攻击对方的这个营地或者是城镇。 所以这样的话，我们的心也如同这个喝醉了这个大象，可是呢，它的破坏力是有过之而无不及的，也就是它的破坏力是攻击力是更加的强的。那这个喝醉的大象只能够攻击，只能造成这个财物跟人命的损害。可是呢，我们这个狂野的、不受调训的、不受驯服的心呢，却能够把地狱带来人间。所以由此可见呢，守护自心是非常重要的一件事情。
Okay, so next verse number 3. But if the elephant of my mind is firmly bound on all sides by the rope of mindfulness, all fears will cease to exist and all virtues will come into my hand.
第三个根本颂是这样念的：若以正念所紧全心狂相，不为尽消除，福善系或止。
So from this, the verse number 3 onwards, actually it's talking about the benefit of guarding your mind, right? And the verse number 3 is the brief introduction of it. So which means that our crazy elephant like our mind, if you are able to bind this crazy mind on all sides by the mindfulness as a rope, right? Then all the fears fears that are made by our mind is no longer exists. Then also all the good things, all the virtues will automatically come to you. So that is the brief introduction of the benefit of controlling our mind with the help of mindfulness.
所以呢，从这个第三根本颂一开始呢，就是他就开始讲述这个以正知正念守护自心的诸种功德。那第三根本颂只是一种简单的介绍，也就是我们如狂象般的我们这个心相续呢，如果能够紧紧的以正念的绳索加以去掌控它的话呢，在方方面面都以正念绳索去加以牢牢的控制住它的话呢，那我们心中的一切部位，就是恐惧心呢，都会就是完全的消失不见了。我们这个自心造作的恐惧都将会消失于无形之间。那除了这个之外呢，我们所祈求的一切的福德、善业跟好运等等呢，都会纷纷的降临。这个就是以正念正知来守护自心呢，所能够获得的功德跟利益。
Okay, so verse number 4 is how guarding our mind can actually eliminate fear. So that's the benefit. So here, the tigers, lions, elephants, bears, snakes, and all forms of enemies, the guardians of the hell worlds, evil spirits, and cannibals.
那下来就是谈说我们如何通过这个正知正念修习呢，来灭除我们心中所有的这个恐惧。那根本说是这样念的：虎视大象熊，舍弃一切的有情地狱主二神并罗刹。
And verse number 5, will all be bound by binding my mind alone, and will all be subdued by subduing my mind alone.
那这边是说根本说是这样念着：唯有系此心，即摄彼一切，调伏此一心，一切皆驯服。
And verse number 6 says, the perfect teacher himself has shown that in this way, all fears, as well as all boundless miseries, originate from the mind.
第6个根本颂呢，就是这样念的，就是实语者佛言，一切诸部位，无量众苦痛，皆由心所生。
So these verses, what it's saying is by binding our mind, in other words, protecting our mind or guarding our mind from wandering to many different places and different objects, then if you are able to bind that mind, then you don't have to bind anything else, because then the binding your mind is equivalent to binding all the fears, like lions, tigers, all of them are bound to a very strong tree. It's like that. Similarly, when you are able to subdue your mind, then there's nothing else that you should be subduing, right? Because subduing our mind is equivalent to subduing everything else. Because the thing is, the mind is the main thing. Mind is the main, what do you call, the performer, or the main actor, the main agent. And whatever good things that you are supposed to bring in, you also should be using your mind to do that. Similarly, all the bad things also are brought forth by the mind. And this is already said by the Buddha himself in the sutra, that by subduing, by binding our mind, then all the fears and all other problems will be eradicated in that way.
所以这边就告诉我们呢，通过我们对自心相续的调伏的话呢，我们就调伏了一切的敌人跟这个烦恼。只要我们能够紧紧的掌控我们自心相续的话呢，那我们就等同于掌控了一切，一切的一切。所以就这一点缘故呢，也就是告诉我们，如果我们调伏好像最像一般的这个不驯服的心的话，把它驯服的话呢，那我们的一切的敌人啊，一切的烦恼，一切的怨敌，比如说是狮子啊、老虎，等同于把这些敌人、这些野兽呢，把它紧紧的绑在这个大树上，那就牢牢的控制住他们。那其他的我们就不必做了，那只要通过调伏这个如醉象般的心相续就可以了。所以因为我们调伏了自心相续的话，就等同于调伏了一切。因为我们为什么呢？因为我们的心就是我们的主人，我们的心是造作一切的造作者，我们的心是作者跟造者。所以好的功德可以通过经由调伏自心而获得。那这个善业也是如此。那我们的罪业，我们的一切的痛苦，也是我们的心所招惹的。所以唯有通过好好的调伏调训我们这个心的话，我们就能够调训一切的一切。那在佛经中佛陀也说过，唯有净化我们的心相续的话，我们才能够净化我们的一切妄想跟烦恼。
So, in other words, everything, the creator is our own mind. So, therefore, when you are able to control your mind, then it is equivalent to controlling all other problems. Problems are not coming from outside, it's the creation of our own mind. So that's why on this, if it is not our mind that is the creator of all these problems, then the verse number 7, it says, who intentionally created all the weapons for those in hell? Who created the burning iron ground? From where did all the women in hell ensue? Of course, those are all our own creation, our mental creation, right? That's the idea. Otherwise, nobody else that you can find who created these things, right? So that's why in many sutras, it is said that the mind is the one that is the main actor, main creator.
所以呢，一切的造作者就是我们的这一颗心，造作者就是我们的这个心。那如果造作者，所以一切的问题呢，都不是外在的环境所升起的，一切都是由我们自相续呢所造作出来的。那如果你说这个如果不是心所造作一切的话，那是什么才是才是真正的造作者呢？是不可能的。所以第7个根本颂就告诉我们说：有情欲兵器，何人故意造？谁自烧铁地？你众从何处？ 也就是说，这个地狱中的武器啊，等等这些痛苦的这种境况，如果不是我们的心的话，难道是其他的人、其他的他者所造作出来的吗？那是不可能的。所以一切都是唯心所现，自己所创作出来的，没有所谓的这个他者。所以呢，在很多的经论当中呢，都有这样的一种描述，一切都是唯心所现、唯识所变的。
Okay. So verse number 8. So then the mighty one, which means Buddha, has said that all such things are the workings of an evil mind. Hence, within the three world spheres, there's nothing to fear other than my mind. So it's referring to those, the weapons for those in hell, the burning iron ground, and so forth and so on. So if there's no other creator, if our mind creates them, what kind of mind created these kinds of things? It's the evil mind, our mind that is governed by, is kind of controlled by or overpowered by mental afflictions, right? Desire, anger, jealousy, and so forth. When our mind is afflicted or tainted by these afflicted emotions, then our mind tends to do unimaginable things, right? So that's why we really have to contemplate on how the workings of our mind, if you let it do whatever it wants to do. So we have to observe this way. We have to first understand, and then it gives us a very strong reason why Shantideva is really focusing on recommending us to implement mindfulness and introspection in order to guard our mind.
所以这边呢，就说佛说彼一切皆由恶心造，是故三界中恐怖莫甚心。也就是说，我们的心是造一切的造作者。那所谓的这个心王，那如果不是心的造作的话，那有什么有其他的他者吗？没有，唯有我们的心。那是怎么样的一个心造作的这个所谓的这个有情欲兵器啊这些东西呢？也就是我们这个恶念充满恶念的这个心，也就是我们的恶行。恶行就是被烦恼和妄想所掌控的这个心。那我们的烦恼这个贪嗔痴慢疑等等这些，那所掌控的心呢，就让我们的心狂野思念，所以造作了种种的恶业恶行。所以我们必须要好好的去思维一下，就是说，如果我们让我们的心相续继续的放肆思念下去，狂妄下去的话，狂野下去的话呢，那它会带来这个不可思议的很不好的状况跟恶果。所以这个东西我们必须要好好的去思维、去反省、去思考和观察一下。就是吉天菩萨、香地佛涅瓦之所以告诉我们说，如何要以这个正念，为什么要以正念正知呢？来守护我们的这个心相续。
So, and also equally, mind is responsible for all the good things that we can actually generate. For example, for the Bodhisattva, the main practice of Bodhisattva path is 6 parameters, right? And those 6 parameters are also not really a practice, something out there. It is the practice of our mind, how our mind, we can train our mind in terms of those 6 parameters. When you are able to do that, then you can see in your own mind, there are many aspects. The aspect of the generosity, the aspect of moral discipline, and so forth. Those are the parameters, right? So that's why here it says, if the good things like the virtues and the wholesomes like perfection of parameters, if they are not mind, then there wouldn't be 6 parameters. So that's the meaning of verse number 9. if the perfection of generosity were the alleviation of the world's poverty, okay, then since beings are still starving now, in what manner did the previous Buddhas perfect it?
所以呢，心除此之外，除了这个罪业跟痛苦之外呢，心也是吸引一切功德或者造作一切善行的主人。所以呢，我们说要行菩萨道，就是要实现这个般若，这个波罗蜜多六度嘛，六度波罗蜜多就是布施、持戒、忍辱、精进这一些。那这个六度的行持也不是外来的，而是我们自相续从在内在能够升起的这个功德。所以六道等等这些的菩萨力行，万行法门呢，也不为是自心所限的，自心在内在能够成就的功德。所以的所谓的布施、持戒、忍辱、精进、禅定、智慧等等六度波罗蜜多或者波罗蜜呢，都是自心能够在内在里面圆满实现的。所以的所有的功德、利乐跟受用呢，不是其他的他者能够带来的，而是我们自心相续能够升起、能够圆成的。所以在第9个根本颂就这样念了：若除众生贫，使缘施度者，今犹见机贫，系佛云何成？也就是这个意思。
Okay. So what it is saying, the verse number 9 is saying is that all 6 parameters are also the quality of the mind, our own mind. It's not out there. So the perfection of generosity is nothing to do with how you can make the world a generous world. You cannot do that. It's impossible. But the perfection of generosity is when your mind is perfected. When your mind is trained, when you are able to train your mind in such a way that finally there's nothing that you cling to. You have the ability, you train your mind in such a way that it now can let go of everything. It can give away all your belongings, all, not only just external belongings, but including the virtues, the merit that you have accumulated. Everything you are able to, you can let go of. You can give it to other people for the sake of other sentient beings. That is the perfection of wisdom, or sorry, the generosity. So that's why the perfection of 6 parameter is very much the mind of each individual practitioner. Otherwise, there will be a problem because we know that there are past Buddhas, right? Buddhas have gone from this world, the samsara, to the pure land of their own pure lands, which means they have perfected 6 parameters. But if perfection of 6 parameter is related to how much the world that you make, you create, to become very generous world or morally disciplined world, then of course we can still see the world is not perfected with generosity. World is not perfected with the moral discipline and so on and so on. Then that would mean then like there will be the absurd kind of consequences for us. Then we have to say, how come you said Buddhas have already achieved Buddhahood? They have perfected the 6 parameter, but how come then world still is imperfect, right? So that's why the imperfectness of the world is nothing to do with the perfection of 6 parameters for the Bodhisattva practitioners. So that's why it's our own mind that can be perfected. And our own mind, if you let loose of it, it can also bring lots and lots of unfavorable situations.
所以呢，这个六度波罗蜜多的功德，也就是心的功德啊，心的功德从来不是外在的事情，而是我们能够在这种自心相续中圆满升起的。所以，如果我们要圆满布施度了，布施波罗蜜多的话呢，并不是让这个世界外在世界变得更好，因为不是我们努力去让这个世界变得乐善好施、慷慨大方，而是让我们的自相续当中呢，能够升起这个乐善好施、慷慨大方的自性圆满的这个功德。所以呢，调伏了我们的心呢，圆满了自心呢，就调伏跟圆满了整个世界。如果我们的心相续自己呢，就是无执无求、无贪无相的话，能够布施一切，包括自己外在的财资、内在的功德，也能够布施给出去的话，一点丝毫的执取都没有的话，这个才是布施波罗蜜多的这个圆满跟这个功德。所以我们在这边说呢，六度的功德庄严呢，就是自心的圆满功德庄严。从来不是外在的一件事情，要不然的话，我们会有个疑惑说，我们说诸佛已经成就了这个菩萨六度万行，那成就圆满的佛果净土，可是为什么我们倒过头来看这个我们的情趣世界呢，还是这么的不圆满、不清净、不如法呢？由此可见，就是说所谓的六度波罗蜜多的圆满跟清净呢，是跟我们的自心相续有关系的。那菩萨的六度万行的圆满，也是跟我们自心内在的自心相续的圆满跟成就有关系的，一切都不是外在的显现，而是内在我们的这个自心功德的所修所显。所以呢，就这样了解的话呢，一切的外在都是我们的内在的自心所显所化的话，那圆满我们自心，在我们的内心里面呢，圆满布施度以及其他的六度波罗蜜多是极为重要的一件事情。那也由此可见，如果既然自心能够带来一切的功德跟受用，如果自心不加以调伏、调训的话，那也会带来不少的罪业跟痛苦。
So the verse number 10, I already explained it. So, but now reading the text, the perfection of generosity is said to be the thought to give all beings everything, together with the fruit of such a thought. Hence, it is simply a state of mind. It's not, how much the world you can make nicer. It's not that. It is the state of mind. If your mind is perfected, that is the perfection of generosity. And then the next verse number 11 is on the perfection of moral discipline. So it says, nowhere has the killing of fish and other creatures been eradicated. For the attainment of merely the thought to forsake such things is explained as the perfection of moral discipline.
那下来呢，先请一阶放那个第10页那个嘛，第十段的根本颂可以吗？第10段的根本颂也其实就是告诉我们，刚才 Khenpo 已经解释了，就是说所有的这边念是这样念的：生财及果德施舍施与众生心，经说与施度缘，故施为一心。也就是说，一切的这个波罗蜜，包括这个特别是这个布施度呢，从来不是外在的境况所能够显现，而是自心所造、自心所现的。所以圆满了自心相续内在的这个布施度的话，就圆满了一切的布施度。所以呢，一切都是内在所成就了。下来我们看到这一段Khenpo已经解释，下来我们看到第11个根本颂。所以浅于自何方时的不遭伤，或断恶之心，说为戒度缘。这边讲的是戒行，也就是我们的这个守戒清净的这个部分呢，是由这个第11个根本颂所说明的。
Yeah, so on the perfection of moral discipline, it's the same thing. It's the state of mind. So when your state of mind is free from hatred, free from intention of harming somebody, then, it's completely pure of those evil thoughts. That's the perfection of moral discipline. Otherwise, the perfection of moral discipline, if you think that it is the eradication of all the harms in the world to the fish and all those different creatures, and even harming, sentient beings or living human beings to each other, then again, same problem. Then, there will be absurd consequences for us as a Buddhist. Like, then how can we confidently, say that the Buddhas and high-level bodhisattvas have perfected 6 paramitas? Because then people will say, we still see a lot of problems. Fishes and other creatures are killed by others for food and for different purposes. Similarly, human being to human being, due to anger, due to jealousy, and so forth and so on, they kill each other, right? So then how come Buddha has not eradicated all these problems in the world, right? So therefore, the perfection of moral discipline is a state of individual mind, not the whole universe, whole world.
所以呢，这边呢就告诉我们说，比如说我们不去杀鱼，这些都是外在的行为呢，其实都必须要以自心的圆满为开始，才能够圆满这个戒律的这个波罗蜜。所以这样而言呢，如果我们净化了自心相续的贪嗔痴慢疑这些烦恼，特别是嗔的这个部分呢，才算是这个戒行波罗蜜的这个圆满，而不是外在的行为，单外在行为的这个不去伤害、不去钓鱼不去杀鱼、不去杀人或者伤害其他众生而已。所以如果你这样想的话，认为是一切都是外在行为的圆满才算是圆满6度万行的话，这样你或许会百思不得其解，就是有一种疑惑，也对佛教的说法会失去信心。因为佛教说这个佛菩萨已经圆满了6度万行嘛，可是为什么看这个情期世界是充满一大堆的痛苦跟烦恼，人跟人之间呢互相的杀害，那我们去杀害其他的众生，夺取其他众生的性命等等这些，或许你有这样的这个疑惑，如果你照这样的思路去思维的话，可是如果能够有这个见地，建立起正确的见地，认为说一切的戒行的圆满乃是自心相续的圆满，而跟外在的情期世间没有直接的关系的话，那你就真正的是了解了，而且圆满了这个什么叫做戒行方面的这个般若度的圆满。
So verse number 12 is on perfection of patience. The unruly beings are as unlimited as space. They cannot possibly all be overcome. But if I overcome thoughts of anger alone, this will be equivalent to vanquishing all foes, all enemies.
下来第12个根本颂呢，讲的是我们的安忍品，就是讲我们是安忍或者忍辱，是这样念的：玩者如虚空，岂能尽自彼？若习此嗔心，则同灭众敌。
Okay, so yeah, this is again, it is the state of mind. If individual's mind, a practitioner's mind is free of anger, jealousy, and so forth and so on, then there will not be any foe out there. So that's why. So if the perfection of patience is defined as eradicating all the angers out there or all the enemies out there, then again the same problem, because we still see many so-called enemies and foes, although we also have many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have already perfected. Then how can you explain it, right? So that would be the problem. But then the answer is, of course, it's nothing to do with how much the cleaning that one can do with regard to the world or the universe or the samsara. It is very much to do with how much cleaning of your own mind that you do. And if you can perfect your mind with the anger, jealousy, then it is equivalent to vanquishing or eliminating all the foes out there. Because a mind free of anger does not have any foes or any enemies.
所以呢，这边呢也告诉我们说，一切的功德，包括这个修安忍的功德，也就是自心所现，唯心所变的。也就是说，如果我们那个自心圆满这个安忍度的话呢，那我们不用去克服外在的敌人，因为我们的嗔恨心等等这些烦恼都是我们自心所现起的。真正的敌人是我们内在的烦恼，而不是外在的敌人。所以调伏内心的话，有自内证的话，就不会有这个外在的敌人。同时，你有这个自内证的功德的话，那外在的敌人也等同于一起得到消灭了。所以，如果我们修安忍的话，那如果我们误认为以为修安忍就是要止服外在的怨敌的话，那我们就会升起的这个百思不得其解的疑惑。因为我们认为说，这个诸佛菩萨已经圆成了这个六度万行，为什么还有我们这个情绪世界还是充满了一大堆的怨恨跟敌人呢？所以我们就会往这样的思路走下去呢，就会觉得会升起一些疑惑。要知道说，一切的真正的怨敌从来不是外在的情绪世间所有的，一切我们真正的敌人是我们内在，跟外在的轮回世界这个宇宙没有关系。所以只要这样的思路延续下去的话，我们先圆满我们这个自心相续中的怨敌，也就是我们的烦恼贪啊、嗔啊、痴啊、妒忌心这些的话，也等同于圆满了整个世界、整个宇宙的这个安忍的功德的修持。所以这样的话，如果能够有自内证的功德的话，那一切的外在的怨敌也就是得到了消灭。这个就是这一个根本颂所要告诉我们的意义。
So next verse, the verse number 13 is illustrating this perfection of patience, right? With a very kind of interesting example. And this is, one of my favorite kind of examples. So it goes something like this. Where would I possibly find enough leather with which to cover the surface of the earth? But wearing leather just on the soles of my shoes is equivalent to covering the earth with it.
这个呢，第13个根本颂就是 Khenpo 个人最喜欢的一句话。这边中文念是何须足量革，既覆此大地，片革垫靴底，既同覆大地。也就是说，你不需要把整个大地都铺满这个皮革，你只要穿上皮鞋，你等同于覆盖所有的大地。
So I think this, in particular, this example, if you can use it, in your own life every day that you encounter with so many different things, then I think, it becomes clear in your mind, the meaning of it, what, the profound meaning that it carries. Yeah, because everybody wants to avoid something. But in order to avoid, for example, here in this particular case is you want to make this whole surface of the earth a very smooth, where there's no thorn, there's no ups and downs, right? In order to make it, then, if you want to wish to cover it with leather, it's impossible to have such, big leather, right? You cannot. However, but your sole of your shoe is covered with leather. Now, wherever you go, wherever you walk, then your sole of your feet will be protected by this small leather covering just your shoe. So similarly, then, you cannot restrain from the whole world out there. But if you restrain your mind, if you capture or control your mind, then it's equivalent to restrain from everything else.
所以这边呢，也就是说这句话这边所告诉我们的意义，如果我们能用在我们的日常的生活当中呢，自然会得到它的受用，也是反复的去思维当中的深刻的意义的话呢，那我们就会觉得它的意思就会在我们的心中呢朗朗明现，了了分明。那这样比如说我们要把整个大地，要为了要使它变得平坦，为了要使它没有凹凸不平，没有那个凹凸不平的刺啊等等这些东西的出现的话，如果我们要把整个所有的皮革都铺满整个大地的话，那是不可能的一件事情。可是只要我们有没有一双很舒适的皮鞋，那它的是平底鞋，那同时有很好的皮革做的这个平底皮鞋，那这样的话，不论我们走到哪里，我们的脚就觉得很舒服、很自在，要保护了我们脚不受这个整个大地的伤害。所以由此可见呢，一切的不顺、不调伏、不安都不是外在的问题，而是我们只要把内在控制的好。内在调伏的好的话，就能够远离一切外在的伤害跟外在的这个不好的境况。
So next verse number 15. First maybe let's see. Yeah, verse number 14. The explanation I already have given. It is said, likewise, it is not possible for me to restrain the external course of things. But should I restrain this mind of mine, what would be the need to restrain all else?
所以这边已经说了，开波拉干已经解释第14个根本受是这样讲的，是如是无不可，尽自助外敌，为因复此行，何劳自起？就是说，你只要调伏自心相续的话，就不需要克制外在的敌人，因为一切的东西都是我们自心升起的，没有所谓的外在的敌人。
So verse number 15 is now on the perfection of endeavor or the effort. Although the development of merely a clear state of concentration can result in taking birth in Brahma's realm, physical and vocal actions cannot so result when accompanied by weak mental conduct.
下来是说我们的精进度，就是第15个根本受是这样念的：身意明定心，易得犯天国；身口善众群，心弱难成就。也就是你的心力如果弱的话，是无法修成这个天道啊，或者是菩提这些正果的。
So here what is talking about is, of course, still emphasizing on the mind. Mind is the driving force, is the driver actually. When we perform something, we can perform it by means of three things, right? We can perform it with our body, with our speech, and our mind. Among these three, the mind is the important one. Mind is the chief or the boss. Because if your mind is not in the right direction or in the right state of mind, then no matter how your body and speech are in a very orderly manner, the result will be just kind of meaningless.
所以呢，这边还是要告诉我们说，心是一切的造作者，心是一切的主人。那虽然我们造作外在的造作有分身口意3种，可是呢，在这身口意当中呢，我们的心才是真正的首要的主人，心才是我们真正的老板，心才是真正的这个主人。如果我们的心呢狂妄思念，失去了方向，失去了安乐自在的境况的境界的话呢，那不管我们的身跟语有多安好，我们还是不会得到真正的这个受用跟功德的。
Okay, so today's lesson we will stop here with these 15 verses, and now we have 15 minutes for question and answer.
我们今天就说到这边呢，下来是这个问答的时段，大家可以在这边提出各自想要问的问题，然后有请干部替我们解答。
Hi, brothers and sisters. You may use the chat room to type your question or anything that you would like to discuss.
There's one question from Ivan. Khenpo, could you elaborate how one can protect one's mind from anger and jealousy? Thank you.
Okay. You really have to investigate when when anger arises or jealousy arises. First, you have to know what is the nature of anger and what is the nature of jealousy, right? And then you can really investigate. In other words, you have to analyze. You have to analyze the anger and you have to analyze the jealousy, where it is coming from, what is the cause of it, what is the nature of this jealousy and anger, and then you can see clearly whether it is worth, these jealousy and anger are worth accepting, or in other words, just accepting them. You can clearly see then how anger and jealousy arises in our mind due to some very petty reasons. But if you really go deeper into the analysis of it, then you can clearly see that it is really like you have given rise to anger and jealousy for no reason at all. Or even if you think that there's a reason, that reason is not valid. This is how you can do, basically, analyze.
Khenpo老所给的答案呢，主要是要做分析的关照的觉照的功夫。那基本上呢，就是说，当这个问题问说，Khenpo老，我们如果有这个妒忌心跟恼怒心的话，要怎么样调伏它？怎么样避免不让它升起？那 Khenpo老的答案就是说，我们要觉照它，就是关照它的本性为何。所以觉照这个我们的这个嗔恨心跟妒忌心升起的时候呢，要问自己说，要去观察它，去分析它，这二者它是从哪里升起的？它升起的因是什么？它的本性是什么？这两个烦恼，妒忌心跟嗔怒心的这个升起的因是什么？它的本性为何？这样的话呢，再去分析一下，让自己达到一个了了分明的这个觉照，说，如果我去投入这样的这个恼怒心、嗔害心跟这个妒忌心当中，值不值得？如果你细细分析你烦恼的升起的话呢，那其实都是一些微不足道的小小的理由跟借口升起的，有时候是毫无理由的。可是你慢慢的觉照到说，其实我们任何烦恼心的升起都是它的理由都是不成立的。那像这样的，主要的就是要我们去觉知关照它，去分析它的本性的话，自然就能够得到了调伏烦恼的效果。
So when you analyze them, then what you will realize is that looking at the nature of anger and jealousy, of course, these are actually the one of those mental afflictions, right? Afflicted emotions. And the definition of afflicted emotion is their job, their work, their duty, okay, is to disturb our mind. So because of these afflicted emotions, the mind, which is naturally calm, becomes very irritated, very disturbed. That is their job. So therefore, when you look into these nature of these things, then you will see, I don't want these because I have a peace of mind. And when I let them come in, they disturb my peace or the calmness of my mind. So that's why I don't want them. And also, when you are angry, what anger does is you make everybody, around you, your family members, your loved ones, they will also not like to see you in this kind of state of mind, because you then obviously show them that how disturbed you are, how irritable you become, right? And also for your own sake of your own health also, then because of anger, you will not be able to sleep well. So if you don't sleep well, then of course, if you keep going doing that kind of thing, it will deteriorate your health. So therefore, all these ample reasons, when you analyze them, then you will see clearly how you can control your mind from letting these mental afflictions to taint, right? To taint your mind.
所以，如果你好好的去分析一下呢，就是这个烦恼所升起，他们的本性为何的话，那你就会认知到说，我们的心本来就是一片安静美好的，非常的平和自在的。可是呢，这个烦恼的出现呢，干扰我们内心的平静跟安好。也就是说，这个烦恼的工作就是要带来把一大堆的问题、烦恼、障碍呢，带来给我们的这个内心自信相续。所以就这点而言，你去升起，我绝对不要这些东西啊！为什么我要去把我的心门打开，去招惹这些一些不必要的烦恼和问题呢？所以这边就升起了一个警惕心，说我其实这些烦恼对我一点好处都没有用的，都没有的。那第二呢，当你生气恼怒的时候，你就会把你自己的痛苦跟烦恼呢，也带给其他你身边的一些亲朋戚友，你旁边的所爱你的人就会觉得，哎，你这个人怎么变得如此的不讲道理？他们也会觉得非常的恼怒，然后会疼惜你这样的一种这种自我虐待的这种境况。同时呢，不只是伤害到其他身边的人，也对自己带来了莫大的伤害。因为如果你的心一直充满了各种各样的大小烦恼的话呢，你睡觉也睡不好的话，不得安眠的话呢，那慢慢累积下来的话，你的健康也会日渐的这个败坏。所以呢，由此可见，烦恼只能够染污我们的心相续。我们不应该，我们就达到一个结论说，我要尽量的不让这个烦恼干扰我内心的平和跟安定，内心的自在跟这个美好。所以就这样的话呢，我们自然就会不愿意在我们的心中呢，让烦恼干扰我们内心的平静了。
So do we have another question?
我们还有一个问题。
Please read the prime message. I prime message the second question from the chat.
Second question, what is the best practice method to eradicate the anger and jealousy?
Can you maybe translate that also into Mandarin? Because
这个第二个问题呢，就是问说，消除嗔恨心跟妒忌心最好的修持、最好的修法是什么？
I think I have already given the explanation, the method of eradicating, or at least minimizing, eradicating anger and all those. You need realization of emptiness. Otherwise, you will not be able to eradicate them. But you can always minimize through the mind training practice and the methodology that I have already given is the analysis. You have to investigate, you have to analyze, you have to learn first nature of the anger and where it is coming from, what does it do, is it something that you really want to keep it, or is it something you don't want? And then it gives you the reason how you can train your mind from being not tainted by these kinds of things.
所以呢，这个关于这个修法 ，Khenpo 刚才其实已经解释了。当然，这个唯有对空性的内证跟了悟呢，才能够完全清除这个烦恼的障碍跟这个干扰。但是目前我们所能够做的是，通过一些修行的诀窍来调伏我们的内相续呢。另外一个方法就是 刚才跟波拉所讲的这个分析法，就是以逻辑理性来分析的话，就是观察烦恼升起它的本性为何，它是什么原因升起的，它为什么会升起，那我到底要不要这个烦恼？因此这样呢，给予自己足够的理由来说服自己说，我不受染，我决定不要接受这个烦恼对我所造成的伤害、干扰跟这个染物，这样的话，自然就会降低这些烦恼的伤害力。
Yeah, particularly, with today's lesson, in order to minimize your anger, jealousy, that you have to now use mindfulness and introspection. So mindfulness is, in this case, for anger and jealousy, then, as I said, you have to know how these mental afflictions are, affecting your state of peace and harmony, right? And then, so that is the mindfulness. You have to bring that in again and again, how not to engage with, anger and jealousy. So then introspection is now using the knowledge concerning them, which I already explained, like how bad they are, what they do, and things like that. So just keep those knowledge and mindfulness fresh all the time in your mind, particularly when you encounter some situation where you are vulnerable to be tainted with anger and jealousy. That this time, particularly, that you have to make sure that all your antennas of mindfulness and introspection are up in running. So this is how you can basically kind of train your mind. It's going to be difficult at the beginning, but if you keep doing it, then there's nothing that doesn't become easier.
那么这个呢，主要这个训练心的法门，就是通过正念正知来调伏自己的心相续。那比如说刚才我们说这个嗔怒心跟妒忌心升起的时候呢，那我们就要分析说，以正念来分析说，如这个过患，这个烦恼呢，比如说嗔怒心好了，它如何干扰我们自信的平静、安和跟这个美好？那以这个正念反复去串习，去探研它，去探究它，去提醒自己。那我要不要？既然这个烦恼所带来的祸害是只有害处没有好处的，那我愿不愿意去投入于其中呢？值不值得呢？下来以这个正知就是把自己的所知，明明朗朗的所知呢，去觉照，去提醒自己关于这些烦恼所造成的伤害力跟这个过患。这样的话，我们就能够保证这个警惕心。所以正念正知这两者呢，保持它的鲜活度，在自性相续当中呢，保持它的鲜活度。特别是当我们遇到我们的自心非常的脆弱的时候，特别是遇到这个妒忌心跟嗔恨心的升起的时候，非常脆弱的时候呢，就要提起升起这两者正知正念的天线，那跟这个正知正念接上它的这个源头。那这样的话呢，一开始修说当然是比较不容易的，可是慢慢越修越上手的话，自然就会事半功倍，得心应手。开始做什么修持都是比较困难的，那以后就会越修越容易了。Next question. Dear Khenpo, thank you for your teachings. If everything is only in the mind, then how should we think about the idea of engaged Buddhism? And something like this. Do you just have to accept that we cannot reduce suffering in the world until we achieve enlightenment, or until all beings are enlightened? 这边这个问题是说，他也提到一个 engaged Buddhism， 就是入世。一行禅师跟达赖喇嘛所讲的入世的佛法， 参与式的佛教。这边如果一切都是唯心所造的话，那关于这个 engage Buddhism 这个入世佛教的想法是不是一样还是不一样？那难道我们只能够接受一切的事物现在的样子，一直到一切众生乃至于整个世界都成就佛道了吗？
Yes, engaged Buddhism. I like engaged Buddhism because Buddhism has so many good information. But if you put them into practice, a real practice, that's called engaged Buddhism, right? So that would be really, really good. But there's no contradiction, like everything's mind, yet at the same time, then you are encouraged to engage in activities, physical activities, or the tangible activities of helping sentient beings. Because although everything is mind or mental creation, we have not realized that. Right now, we do have the information. However, in order to realize this, everything's mind and the nature of the mind, realization of the nature of the mind, we need all these accumulation of merit, right? So that is why the engaged Buddhism, helping sentient beings out there, going out there, and really like physically helping beings. When you do that, particularly if you are doing it with a proper, motivation or motivated by bodhicitta, then yeah, that is the real good kind of way of accumulating merit.
那这个关于这个 engage Buddhism 这个入世佛教、参与式的佛教 ，Khenpo 老师相当的赞叹跟随喜的。那我们所现在特别是这个入世的佛教教导我们呢，不只是嘴巴说，而要身体力行去真正的实践这个菩萨万行于我们的人生中、人世中。所以这个跟我们所说的一切唯心造呢，都不会是有所矛盾的。为什么呢？因为关于我们这个所谓一切唯心造真的这个道理呢，我们嘴巴是能够说，可是一直到我们证悟这个有这个正量为止呢，一切都是嘴巴的言辞而已。所以我们必须还要把这个真正的菩萨万行投入于我们实际的生活当中，投入于实际的行动当中，去身体力行。虽然一切唯心造都只是一个口号，我们还没有证悟，那我们只是获得这个资讯而已。那资讯要转化成内证的智慧跟真量的话呢，我们就需要累积一些福德资粮。而入世佛教这个 engage Buddhism 正好就是让我们能够累积福德资粮的一个很好的方法。所以我们的心虽然是认为一切唯心造的，有这样的见地，可是外在的行动还是必须要实际的去身体力行。然后根据这个入世佛教的这个要求来做的话，那只要我们有这个正确纯净无误的这个菩提心的话，那一切都是才是如实可行的。那这样也是才能够累积我们的福德资粮。第二个下来的问题就是，in the fourth verse, Khenpo, it mentions about the animal. Does this animal represent a type of defilements? Like maybe jealousy is represented by snake and others? And what kind of defilements are represented by other animals?
Not in this particular case. It's not. These animals are not representation of particularly the mental afflictions. But when you have this wheel of life, there are in the center there are three animals depicted. So those are the representation of desire, anger, and ignorance, right? But here, these are just a representation of fear. We are fearful of lions and tigers because they are ferocious animals. They can really harm you, right? So that's why it's just showing the fear. When you have fear, of course, you cannot get rid of all the tigers and bears and lions in the world. But if you can subdue your mind, if you control your mind, if your mind becomes fearless, right, then it is equivalent to subduing all these animals. That's the point here in this particular verse.
那这个问题就问说，第四颂中提到的动物呢，是不是代表一种烦恼性？比如说是蛇是妒忌心等等这些。Khenpo老师说，当然我们看那个生命之轮，这个西藏这个生命轮回的图片嘛，图画，那个里面间中的中间的那个3个动物，就是代表我们的3种主要的烦恼：贪、嗔跟这个痴。然而在这个入行论里面这一品当中呢，这里所提到的动物呢，所有的野兽、猛兽都代表着我们的恐惧心。也不是说蛇代表妒忌心，没有这样的这种分别跟表征，主要就是因为这些野兽能够带给我们伤害，让我们心生畏惧，所以如果只要调伏了我们内心，我们知道一切的外在的伤害无非是我们自心所现的，所以只要调伏我们内在的这个心的话，也等同于调伏了这些如狮子啊、老虎等等这些能够伤害、能够让我们心生畏惧的这些外在的野兽，所以这是这个意思，并不代表着某一个特定的烦恼。Khenpo, you say that if the mind isn't in its right state, then no matter how well body and speech behave, it will be meaningless. I think the action could still be beneficial for other sentient beings. For example, even if I'm a doctor who is selfishly focusing a lot on making money, I might still help the other people by treating them correctly. Is that correct?
Yeah, because here are 2 things. I'm talking about from the, Bodhisattva path perspective. From that point of view, then if your motivation is not right, then even if you think that your actions with your body, speech are for attaining Buddhahood in the future, then that will not be the right thing. In other words, this kind of activities will not bring forth your desired result. So that's what I'm saying. But of course, the benefit of engaging in this kind of activities, particularly a doctor, even though he's for money, but at least he's saving life and he's making person's health better. And so, of course, there is the benefit. There's the good merit there. However, if you ask if that merit becomes the cause for future attainment of liberation or the Buddhahood, maybe not. But this kind of merit will give you a good result in samsara. That's for sure.
所以这边一个问题说 ，Khenpo 你讲说，如果心是不正确的话，那不管是我们身体或者是言语上有多善有多美好，那也都是无意义的。那他所提出一个反证，就是说一个医生可能只是为了很自私自利的赚钱养家，可是他的所作所为不也一样是能够利益到很多人的健康吗？那 Khenpo 解释说，这可以分2点来讲。就这成就菩萨道的利乐众生而言的话，就菩萨万行而言，菩萨道而言的话，我们讲究的是他的发心跟他的这个动机。所以如果他的动机跟发心是不善的话，那没有这个菩提心为基础的话，那即便是他的身体所造作的行动跟他语言所讲的话有多善多好，那都是不是成佛之因。就这点，如果要成佛成就菩提真悟的话，那是了不可得的，因为这些没有善的动机跟发心为基础的身跟语义的造业的话，它都不是正行，也不是善行，所以这点言呢是成佛是了不可得的。可是第2点来说，就世间的利益来说，世间法而言，这个医生就算是只是为了钱而养家赚钱，那他的行为还是可以利益到很多的众生的。可是如果我们要问说这个就是成佛之因吗？绝对不是。那最多只是人天福报而已，在人天善果方面来讲是可行可通的，但它不是脱离轮回成就佛道之因，所以就这点而言，这2者是不一样的。
Okay, so actually time is off. So shall we stop here today? Because maybe many people are already maybe scheduled for certain things. So we have to be respectful of our timing, maybe.
或许很多人有很多的还有很多的问题要问，可是有些人 因为时间的关系，可能要做一些其他事情，那我们就在这边打住，好不好
？Okay. So then it means now we will do the dedication prayer. Dedication prayer is also very important, like taking refuge and cultivating bodhicitta at the beginning. When you do this dedication at the end of any practice or teaching, then it means that your merit that you gain from this activity of participating in teaching or any kind of practice, that merit will not go in vain. It is already secured, basically. It's like putting your money in a safe deposit. It will never go away. So that's why the dedication prayer is very important for that reason.
就好像这个我们要做的是功德回向，等一下，就好像前行法当中的这个皈依跟发心一样，那这个功德回向是非常重要的，因为我们所听经啊、闻法啊、禅定、修持所做的一切的累积的福慧资粮呢，都必须要保障它不会退失，而且会辗转增上，就好像你把钱存入到你的银行的户口当中一样的，你会觉得有所保障，有安全感。所以功德的回向也是同样的一件事情，把我们所累积的福德资粮都储存起来，那回向给一切众生，其实自然就会得到保障跟安全。
So dedication prayer will be shown on the screen, right?
我们在荧幕中会看到这个功德回向文。
톱네 예베 나나 밤체네 예가 나제 발라 추바예 시베 솔렘 도와 돌아와라쇼. So see you next week.